Hi, everybody. Good evening. We are going to work today on nucleic acids. This is not a new word for you. You have heard this word, you have learned something about the nucleic acids, but we'll try to re examine from the point of view of a little higher level learning. Now, there are two types of nucleic acids. One is called the RNA, the expansion of that is ribonucleic acid. The second one is deoxyribonucleic acid. Only two types of nucleic acids available in the living world. In the spectrum of living, when you look at the spectrum of living, you find from very small organisms like bacterial cells to higher animals. That means in the spectrum of living beings, we have plants, we have animals, we have single-celled organisms, we have multicellular organisms, and all these organisms, whatever the organisms we are looking at it, all these organisms have the DNA and RNA. Now, when we come to the presence of the things, we found all living organisms, that is living cells, have both ribonucleic acid and deoxyribonucleic acid. But when we come to virus particles are not considered as living beings today because they only start replication or reproduction only when they start living in a host cell. Otherwise, they will not be in a position to do anything at all. So from this point of view, looking at all the characteristics called the marine or the total activity of the living beings, virus particles are not considered as living, but they do have the either RNA or DNA. Virus particles do not have both RNA and DNA in them. That's a point you must note. But they will have either RNA or DNA. For example, there are so many DNA, say, what you call the viruses. There are so many RNA viruses. But again, the DNA is not double helix in them. That's another point you must know. They were only single strand. Now, what is DNA? What is nucleic acid? If you ask that question, nucleic acid is a long chain of nucleotides. Nucleotides are the monomers. That means many nucleotides stack one above the other, form a long chain of a polynucleotide, and that is a nucleic acid. Now, when we think of the different types of nucleic acids, I think we will just try to go little away and find out what are these nucleotides to begin with, and then we will re-examine the two types of nucleic acids. Today, I think we will be able to examine only the deoxyribonucleic acid. So, first thing what we do, we will try to find out that what are the three units present in them. One of them is called the pentose sugar. Pentose sugar. This is a 5-carbon sugar. 5-carbon sugar. That is one unit. And then second, we got the phosphate moiety from the phosphoric acid. That is from this we get the phosphate, and the third one is the nitrogenous base. These three form what's called the nucleotide. Nucleotide is the monomer. It is the basic material required for the presence of to make the nucleic acid, either ribo or deoxyribo. We will come to that. So now you are able to say that, we are able to understand there will be a pentose sugar, 5 carbon sugar, there will be a phosphate moiety from the phosphoric acid, nitrogenous base. There will be 5 types of nitrogenous bases we normally see. One is called adenine, second is called guanine, third is called cytosine, fourth is called thymine, and the other one, what I am writing now will be what's called the uracil. Though there are 5 types of the nitrogenous bases, but we find adenine, guanine, cytosine and thymine in DNA. And we find adenine, guanine, cytosine and uracil in RNA. So RNA contains uracil instead of thymine. So this is one difference you should know. And then what we do is we will try to go a little further and try to find out what this 5-pentose sugar is and what is this phosphate, what is the basis. Now I think you remember now nucleic acid is a long chain, or you can call it, it's a polymer of nucleotides. The number of nucleotides decides the length of the either DNA or RNA. We will not go to that immediately. We can think of it in the next session. So we will now just go to the next one. We will try to understand what is this pentose sugar, why one is called deoxyribo, other is called ribose sugar. So now when we look at it, we have a ribose sugar in the form of ring structure. If you look at this ring structure, this is the a pentose sugar. This has got carbon here called alpha carbon. Here is a carbon, that is carbon 1, carbon 2, carbon 3, carbon 4, and the 5th carbon will be here. 5th carbon. This is the structure of the sugar. Now this will contain say H and OH, like that, H and OH. There are hydroxyl groups will be present here, and this will contain a aldehyde group called CH2OH. So this is one sugar. Now if you look at position 2 here, we have what's called the hydroxyl group which contains the oxygen. Let me write another pentose sugar. This is also a pentose sugar. You know all these things already, but I'm just only trying to recollect that for you. Now if you go for this has got here like that, all these things are here. But in this position 2 of the carbon, first carbon, second carbon, third carbon, fourth one, fifth one, here CH2, OH will be here. And in this position, you have only H and H. There is no OH, there is no oxygen in this group, and therefore that there are two types of pentose sugar. Pentose sugar, there are two types. One with oxygen in the position 2, one without oxygen in the position 2. So this is called deoxy. D means without oxygen in the molecule. This is the structure of a sugar. Now in all the ribonucleic acid, we have this number 1 or A type, and in the DNA we have the B type. So these are the two sugars present in almost all the nucleic acids. Now when we are interested in looking at the deoxyribonucleic acid, or what's called the DNA, that is our interest. So we will just checked with that particular molecule of the sugar called the pentose sugar. Now, if you look at it, in the pentose sugar, I have told you there will be alpha carbon or the first carbon, second carbon, third, fourth, fifth carbon. We have in all these things the OH groups will be present, and in the first position, there will be this OH moiety will be there, and this will be connected to, that will be, I will use another color so that it will be easier for us to remember. So I will use here, let's say we are using a nitrogenous base, one of them nitrogenous base called adenine. So it joins with the carbon 1 always, and that is that kind of a linkage or bond with the sugar and the nitrogenous base is called glycosidic bondage. It's called a glycosidic bondage. Glycosidic bond. That is alpha carbon, that is carbon 1 and the base, nitrogenous base, when they link with the OH in the position 1, carbon 1, and that is called glycosidic linkage. That is the second one. So now we have a base, nitrogenous base, and a sugar. And the next one that will be that is required to form a nucleotide will be what's called the phosphate. Now at the position 5 here, carbon 5, this OH goes away, and then comes here the phosphate with one, two, three, and then this will be linked with 2. So this will be connected to the phosphate, that is sugar and the phosphate get connected at carbon 5. This will be at carbon 5, the phosphate joins, and that's called phosphodiester bond. That is very important, you must know. So at the alpha position, we get the base. It may be adenine, or it may be cytosine, or it may be guanine, or it may be thymine in DNA. If it is uracil, it becomes RNA. So we are only looking at the DNA now. So DNA, it will contain now component 1, that is the base, component 2, sugar, component 3, a phosphate. All these three, when they join, they will form what's called the nucleotide. So that is important, you must know. So when several units join together, they form what's called the polynucleotide, that is DNA molecule. So you understood now that the alpha position in 1, when the sugar and the nitrogenous base join together by a bondage, by a link, that is called a glycosidic bond. At the 5th position, the H3PO4, that is the phosphoric acid, loses 2 OH radicals and then combines with the 5th OH group, forming the what's called the that is phosphodiester bond. So this is a basic thing you should be able to understand before we go to the next point, that is the DNA helical form and what is the DNA chain. I think I will try to rub it off now. I hope you understood this position of the carbon 1, carbon 2, carbon 3, carbon 5 positions. And now we will take up another important point, and that point, what we do, we will try to say that we just now said nucleotide. If you have the see a base when it is base is connected to, say, the pentose, that is the sugar. It is connected at the position 1 here, and that is base and the sugar moiety. When these two are present, we call this nucleoside. So nucleoside is one. To the nucleoside, if we add at the fifth position here, a phosphate molecule, that is that you can call the phosphate. When add the phosphate, then it becomes nucleoside plus phosphate becomes nucleotide. So this understanding, you just have it because in the examination they ask you the difference between nucleotide and nucleoside. Okay. Now you will just ask one or two small questions like, what do we mean by why DNA? What is the nature of DNA? How it looks like? DNA is made up of two strands. That's one strand, say, one strand of nucleotides. Let's simply write here one nucleotide, then second one, the third one. I will use another color to the fourth one so that we will be able to know that very clearly. That's the fourth one. So like this, there will be nucleotides added as we go up, and all this you know that they are all connected to phosphate molecule also. Therefore, this is one chain of the nucleotide. This contains the bases and the backbone made by the backbone, or the supporting thing is called the backbone here. It is made from phosphate plus sugar. And then to this we are showing these stacks are nothing but the nucleosides. This is one polypeptide chain. So this is one DNA molecule. For the sake of understanding, we have only shown very little number of bases. Now to this particular thing, we will have the complementary structure. That means there will be another molecule. This is straight chain. Okay, this is a long straight chain. Suppose in this chain you keep on twisting it like that. If you start twisting it, this chain, it may come to this form. If you still twist more, it may come like that. This is one chain. So this is the straight chain. This is the chain forming the coils, and this is called helical shape or helical structure. So in the DNA molecule, there are two strands in that. We have shown only one strand for understanding. When it starts coiling completely, it's called the helical one. That is one strand. Supposing I want to show you one more strand, let me use the red color here. Let's say this is the second strand of the DNA molecule. Here we have to this. Supposing if it is adenine, we will have for this the guanine. Like that, we find that there will be a complementary basis here. That means for each and every nucleotide, we will have a complementary base, and that is the beauty of the DNA molecule. What do you mean by complementary base? This is one chain. Okay, let me show you another chain. Now the second chain also forms like that. goes like that. And then supposing if you add to this one the second chain may start coming like that. So ultimately, the entire thing looks like a completely supercoiled structure, and that is called the double helix of DNA. So DNA is always in the form of a double helix. Whichever the organism we take, whether plant or animal, in all the cases, DNA will form the twisted coil. Two strands will form, and they will form the twisted coil. It's called the double helix. So now this is the straight chain formation we have shown. In this double helix, there will be base pairs. Base pairs are always what we call complementary. Complementary meaning that is cytosine always links with guanine, and adenine base always bonds with thymine base. So this is the what you call the complementary nature. That means if there is adenine here, then there will be thymine here. If there is cytosine here, you will have the guanine here. If there is a guanine here, you will have the cytosine. Like that, there will be always the complementary nature will be taken here. And one more thing we have to remember in this will be the two ends. That means if, let me say, if this is the 3' end, we will come to the 3' end, the other end will be 5' end. In the other DNA molecule, this will be just opposite, that will be 3' end, this will be 5' end. This kind of arrangement is called anti-parallel arrangement. Now let me say, supposing we have the adenine, for this the complementary base will be thymine. If there is cytosine here, there will be guanine here. If there is guanine here, there will be cytosine. If there is adenine, there will be thymine. This is in the anti-parallel type because it is 5', against that is 3' end, that is called anti-parallel. Now supposing if I just write another figure and then let you know what it means to you. Supposing if I draw one more figure, the same thing in a different way, that is one chain and the second chain I have written here. This just for the understanding purpose. Supposing I write 5' end here and also write 5' end here, 3' end here, and 5' end here. Now what happens, let us see. So now if you look at it, in this one there is adenine at one end. At the other end, if you do 5 here, you may not get adenine at all, you may get something else. So therefore this is called parallel, because two ends are the same type, same positions are there. That is parallel. So this is not the way the DNA takes. The DNA takes what's called the anti-parallel, where two ends will be different. Now we will try to check up what do we mean by 5' and 3' end. I think now you understood this particular point, that will be helical nature, it is always anti-parallel. Now let us just look at the one diagram showing the anti-parallel and structure of the thing. We know that we have written already here. This is the pentose sugar you have taken, and this is position 1. Here there will be the base. Let's say a base is there. Let's say call it adenine base is there, and then you will have structures like that. It is the 5th position. This is alpha, carbon 1, carbon 2, carbon 3, carbon 4, carbon 5. In the carbon 5 end, this is the OH of the third position. And here you have CH2, OH will be there. So now this end where we have the fifth carbon, it's called 5' or 5' end, where we have a hydroxyl in the group. This in the third position is called the 3' end. This is the structure we know. Now when the phosphate molecule joins with the sugar, where will that it join? Now normally the joining goes on in this direction. That is from 5' to it goes down to 4'. So in this position, for example, if we say this is number 1 sugar, let me write one more sugar here. Written, and position 1 will contain, let me say this contains a guanine, and this is position, this will have the OH here, and this position, the fifth position here, will contain again a OH. This also contains CH2. This is the fifth position. So now what happens here is, now in this fifth position, the OH and the OH from this one, when they react with the phosphoric acid, they will form a connection with the phosphate. They form the connection with the phosphate. And this is called phosphodiester bond. So that is one, this is so now there are two nucleotides joined here, and the joining takes place from 5' end to 3' end. So this way it goes on. Now supposing I want to link one more thing to this one. This is the now this will be 3' end, because this is third position. You understand that point? So 3' end and 5' end is there. Now if I want to, this grows in this direction. Addition goes on in this direction. This one, when it is anti-parallel, now what happens is, for this one, you will have the bonding, and for this one there must be what's called the cytosine. You must get cytosine here. But this cytosine, how is this connected? Now this will be connected to in the inverted way. This is position 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth one will be here. This is the CH2 OH position. This is the 5' end. And this in the third position here, now position is here. So now for this, if you want to add, you have to add here a thymine. Thymine goes with the 2 hydrogen bonding, and for this again you will have the position 1. In the position 1, the sugar will join here. That is the sugar. Now this is position 3. That will be OH. This is the point where you have CH2, OH. This is the fifth position. So in the fifth position of this one and the third position of this one, there will be OH. Now phosphate molecule joins here. These two will go away, and this will be connected with the phosphate bond. Phosphate bond comes here. Phosphate. So this one grows in the opposite direction, keeps on adding. This is called anti-parallel. So you have 3' end, this is the 5' end, then this is 5 prime, this is a 3 prime. So this type of arrangement takes place in the polynucleotide of a DNA molecule. Now I think you try to read once again in your textbooks, try to understand what is that you are able to understand. At least if you are able to understand this particular structure of the DNA, where the growth always goes from 5' end to 3' end by means of phosphodiester bonding, and here it goes in the opposite direction, that is the DNA molecule. Now we will study one or two more smaller ideas on the DNA molecule, and we will try to close this one. Now the DNA molecule, if you closely examine, there are many people who examine that. They may say that if you study that, there will be a structure like this, the DNA molecule, and to this there will be another opposite one will be coming the same form, opposite direction. Supposing we say it is the one of them will be having the 3' end. This will be the 5' end of that one, and this will be 5' and this will be 3'. So here if you look at it, if it expand it, from supposing we start from here, and if you go all the way, this is one turn. This is called one turn has taken place. In this one turn will be, the length will be 3.4 nanometers. 1 nanometer is equal to 10 to the power of minus 9 meters. That is the way that is read. It is 1. In this one, there will be, if you look at this one, there will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 base pairs, 10 base pairs will be in one turn. So one turn, one big turn of the DNA will hold 10 BP are called base pairs. 10 base pairs will be there. And the total length of the one turn will be 3.4 nanometers. These are called the stacks. Between the two stacks, this length will be 0.34 nanometers. So this is the point you must remember, that is in one major turn of the DNA helix, double helix, there will be 10 base pairs, and that length will be nearly 3.4 nanometers, and each base pair will have a space between 0.34. In this one, there will be one is called the major groove. Major groove. Groove refers to a space or a place, and then another is called the minor groove. These are the two terms you must remember. Major groove refers to the space between the two nucleotide base pair sequences will be very, very little wider. That will be said in angstrom units, 22 angstrom units. In the minor groove, the space will be 12 angstrom units. Angstrom is much smaller than the nanometer. It is much smaller compared to the nanometer, right? It is 1/10 of that. So this is the two things you must remember, major groove and minor groove. Why it is so, why this happens, these are the questions you must be in a position to ask, and you must be in a position to find out the answer for it. So now we just tried to understood the various points of the DNA molecule, and this DNA and the RNA, why they are present. DNA molecule, the RNA molecule, they are the storage of genetic material. It is the genetic material, storage of nucleic acids, both DNA and RNA. They are the storage of genetic material, one. And they then transfer the genetic material from one organism to other, one cell to other cell, one organism to other organism. So that's about the DNA. So DNA will be seen as a double helix in the cells of animal or plants. Both in plants and animals we find DNA in the form of double helix, but some bacterial cells may contain DNA, and that is called the circular DNA. Circular DNA in the lower organism, like especially in the protists organisms which are smaller. So in all the plants and animal cells, DNA will be double helix, and that will have this type of a structure. And the number of nucleotides, if you just small data, we will try to now understand a little bit of little data about the number of nucleotides. If you take the number of nucleotides, I'll just have a look at the book here, and then I will try to tell you that the number of nucleotides available in the DNA molecule. Now the DNA molecule, as I said earlier, it has contained the bases and other things. Well, I think I just made a mistake. 1 minute. I will just try to give you the numbers. Okay, right. We are here now. The bacteriophage. This is a virus, and this bacteriophage will contain 5,386 nucleotides. And then E. coli is a bacteria. This is bacteriophage, this is a virus. E. coli is a bacterial cell. This contains 4.6 raised to the power of minus 6 base pairs. E. coli is a bacterial cell, and that contains so many nucleotides. Look at the number of nucleotides, how much they increase. Now when you take the human cell, that is approximately 3.3 raised to the 10 to the power of 9 base pair nucleotides. That is the number. Now when we come to the present problem, what we are facing with our COVID-19 virus, this will contain RNA with its nucleotides. How many nucleotides are there here means it is 29,000, approximately 29,903 nucleotides. This is the COVID-19 virus containing so many in RNA so many nucleotides. Now you can understand how the scientists will be able to break this COVID, and all this nucleotides may form about 4 or 5 genomes. That means they may be able to produce about 4 or 5 types of proteins, and they will help in replication. That means if you want to go more and more higher and higher level in the molecular biology, you should be able to understand very clearly the basic and the fundamentals of the DNA and the RNA molecule. Today I will stop here. We just try to understand the fundamentals of the DNA molecule, and maybe in the next session we will try to take up the work on the RNA molecule. I will just end up here saying that the molecular biology today is very, very important, because you can be a next scientist to find out how to break the nucleotide sequence, add into that the new one, so that the virus particles will not reproduce. So that is the type of research going on here. We'll just stop here. And just to remember again, we said that DNA molecule, or the DNA deoxyribonucleic acid, contains 3 types of 3 units, and 1 unit is called the pentose sugar. That will be a sugar, and this sugar has 5 carbon in the chain. One is called alpha carbon 1, position 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one will be with the aldehyde group. That is the 5th carbon, CH2. We will just say the 5th carbon is the 5th carbon, and then in the first position always there will be a base will come and join, and that kind of a linkage is called glycosidic linkage. And then with the 5 at the fifth carbon level, there will be always a phosphate molecule joins here, and that is called the phosphodiester. Phosphodiester link, and this one is called glycosidic link or bond. So this will form one nucleotide, and then the DNA will be in the form of a long chain, and 2 opposite and parallel runs will be running in the DNA. They will run antiparallelly, and they will store all the genetic material. Thank you.